Welcome to another episode of Miyazaki and Me. I'm Kyle.
And I'm Shane.
And so in this episode, we're jumping ahead in the timeline and we are reviewing the latest release from Studio Ghibli, and that is Earwig and the Witch.
This movie came out on HBO Max this past week, I believe on February 3rd. It came out originally, I believe the release date is listed as
December 30th of 2020. So it's eligible for all of our fine 2021 movie awards.
Yep, and it premiered at the Lumiere Film Festival on October 18th in 2020.
Exciting. So obviously because of it being such a recent movie, we've got some critical feedback, but we don't really have, especially considering how 2020 went. We don't have a box office to talk about or anything like that. We just have the movie to talk about, and
Yeah, which is a theme of the year. I mean, there was some pretty big and talked about animated features that came out in 2020, but not a lot. I mean, there was Onward and Soul. There was Scoob, which made a big deal just because they recast Shaggy. Um, but yeah, there wasn't. 2020 was 2020.
yep. So let's get into the movie itself. It wasn't very good. Like, I'll be honest. Like, the animation style took a lot to get used to. The story felt like it took a lot of time to get to some places, and then it rushed to the finish line. It wasn't like, and it doesn't help that the previous movie we just reviewed was Princess Mononoke, so that's still in my head, and it has a few similarities to Kiki's Delivery Service, so those comparisons do not help it whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, they tried something new. They went full 3D for the first time. Uh, they kind of ran on the coattails of the Lupin the Third that just did that as well. And Lupin the Third, I think, got some good credit for that, but the style just doesn't look good to me. I don't really like 3D animated films in this kind of the look is jarring to me. Like
Yes.
everything, like when it's drawn, when it's hand drawn, everything looks good. And when you go full 3D like this, like I mean, it looks like the first Toy Story movie, which when you go back and watch it is a great movie, but none of the people look great, but the toys look awesome, but the people aren't a primary focus, so you don't need to see the people all the time.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I noticed very heavily in this movie was the fact that anything liquidy did not look great. Like and we're now referencing two movies that came out in the early 90s. Like, it had about the same, structural integrity as like Flubber. Like, it was that type of movement was all you got when Bella Yaga is, mixing up these elements in this bowl, and it looks like Flubber just going around. Like, it doesn't actually look like anything that we're used to. And I know water and liquid is always hard to animate, which is honestly why Pixar, actually knowing that was a problem and being Pixar are like, cool, we're going to do a movie underwater just so we can solve this. And that's when they did Finding Nemo.
Hmm.
And it looks pretty rough.
Yeah, it's very I don't know, not polygon. That's not the right term for
Yeah.
it. The angles are there and they look harsh. I the hand drawn is just, or computer drawn, but just not 3D. Is just so much cleaner to me. Um, it looks more natural when technically the 3D should, but it looks more natural when it's
Yeah.
drawn.
Yeah, well, and that's like we get into, obviously the uncanny valley, discussions with 3D animation as well, of like, a 2D animated thing can look a certain way, and then a 3D like just starts to move into that uncanny valley where, we're a little more critical about it.
So this movie is also a little unique by the fact that it's a movie from a book that I believe is from, I want to say, Ireland.
Yeah, it's a book from the original author is Diane Wynne Jones.
Oh, it's from the UK.
Yep. Yeah,
And
it very much felt like it was from the UK.
so it, it's it's unique in the sense that it is a Japanese film about British people, um, which is kind of interesting to see how the people act in that sense, because I think that they did a good job of like getting the culture, but also knowing British people, it almost feels like there is too much love in the orphanage at the beginning.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's like, "Oh, you actually talk about and say that you're affectionate to one another?" No. No, we don't do that. That's
yep.
silly.
The movie is paced oddly. It felt long for the first half of the movie, like when she's in the orphanage, and then when she gets adopted. Like it felt like it was taking a while
Yeah.
to get to the actual plot. Um, and then when she is with the Mandrake and and Bella Yaga, she then takes a long time to come up with a plan. So that also felt like it was taking a while to really get anywhere. And then the relationships, as you said before, suddenly just warp speed into the the finite end of, like, they do a time skip at the end where
Yeah.
the manager and they jump to her, like, having them in the palm of her hand again, and then her mom comes home, and that's the end of the movie. It's just the movie doesn't flow any way like it should. Like, it felt like the first episode of a TV show where maybe it's about to get interesting, and then it ends, and then but you never got to the interesting part.
Yeah. Well, and what I had heard initially about this was it was going to be a series. And I think this would have actually worked fairly well as like a 6 episode miniseries. Giving, a little more time in the orphanage, getting to develop those characters a little bit more. But yeah, we get 82 minutes and that's it. And I
Yeah,
feel like
maybe. I don't know if this was an interesting enough story for it to fit as a 6 episode miniseries. Like, they do have some characters that they could do. Like, the Mandrake is really cool, although he just seems like a not a great guy. Really, he seems like an abusive husband throughout
yeah.
the whole thing. Um, and I don't know. there's just something off about this film, and it's unfortunate. It might be yeah, it might be my least favorite thing that we've watched.
Oh yeah, but for me, yes, because I mean, even though it just felt incomplete, was
Yeah.
the biggest problem for me. Whereas at least with like Castle of Cagliostro, even though I think both of us rated it the lowest in our first half, that was a complete story and a complete film. Whereas this, yeah, just feels lacking.
It felt like we watched a really long Flash video.
Yeah, I can see
Like
that.
yeah, like somebody on the internet like uploaded this to YouTube or something. And I would have believed that this was just somebody like some random dude that did this and not Studio Ghibli. Outside of in the credits when TV and she is watching Howl's Moving Castle, there is nothing about this movie that says Studio Ghibli. Like the heart isn't even really there because the young girl lead character isn't truly someone that you really want to root for. Like she's fine, but she's not necessarily like a good kid. Like
No,
her goal is for get everyone to do what she wants.
yeah, like we get this realization about 3/4 of the way through the movie that Earwig or Erica or whatever, um, like is going through her past, and it's like, oh, the Mandrake just makes everybody do everything that he wants, and doesn't consider anyone else's feelings, and then she slowly realizes, like, oh, that's how I was at the orphanage. I was just trying to control everyone, and blah blah blah. And she comes to this realization, and I'm thinking, it's like, oh, she finally realizes she's kind of awful. And then the next scene, she's like, well, I'm gonna take over this place instead. Wait, what? She's like, I need
Yeah.
to manipulate the Mandrake so that he can manipulate everybody else so that I can be back in charge.
Yeah, and they hint towards the end too that the Mandrake might be her dad. Just with the scene where her mom like goes to kiss the Mandrake in a car.
Yeah.
So like that also ties them together in the sense that he just makes everyone do what he wants, and she does the same thing.
Yeah.
It's almost like, oh, it's like father like daughter. Um,
Yep.
there's no lesson learned. There's no, I don't know. It's just I wish there was just more substance to the movie, and because the visuals are a thing that I can get past. Like, it's jarring at first, and then you get used to it, and then you're just watching this film. It might not be my bag, but it's something that I can get past. But there was just no real substance to the film. Like I thought at one point that the demons were gonna be a bigger part of it, and they weren't. Um, I thought it. I thought maybe like she was gonna try to escape with Thomas the cat, and like there'd be an interesting story there. But that it was like Thomas might have been the best part of it, but not really.
Yeah.
Um, like her relationship with the cat might have been, but yeah, like
Yeah.
even that though,
Well,
she
and that.
she kind of showed that she was trying to push him to do what she wanted by calling him
Yep.
the name of the boy that she forced to do everything she wanted.
Yep. Yeah, and that's yeah, the fact that Thomas is there, at all, and even the look of Bella Yaga's little workshop is a similar look to Kiki's mother's workshop at the beginning of Kiki's delivery service. And I kept coming back to that, and it's like, oh, this is not a good comparison for you. Like, this is not great, comparing it to,
Kiki being my 1A, 1B, kind
yeah,
of thing. That
yeah. It's like
it's
comparing it
hard
to
to.
one of the best Studio Ghibli movies. It's like, oh, that's not great. Um, But I guess we can enough with the negativity. Like, what are some things that
Well,
you actually?
one more real quick.
Okay, one
Sorry,
more.
sorry.
Okay.
I just I guess when it comes down to it for the story for me, it's that they kept moving the line of what I thought they were going to do. Like at first I was like, oh, she gets adopted and she talks about running away, so her whole thing's going to be that she's going to try that she's going to try to escape these people that are being bad to her. That's not what's happening. And then I'm just like, oh, so she's doing this. She's going to learn how to be a witch and she's going to do some witch stuff, and that's not really what ends up happening. And then it's just like, and then she seems to get the Mandrake sort of on her side, and at that point I'm just like, oh, so her and the Mandrake are going to team up, and then it's going to be a thing where the witch or Bella Yaga gets like sort of back to her. But no, that's when you get the time jump to the future, and
Yeah.
everyone's just kind of doing her thing, and it's just like they kept moving the line of what might be an interesting story, and then just went with the easiest solution for all of them to really give it no. That's just my final negativity
Yeah.
there.
So of the things that positively we can say, even though this is almost a backhanded compliment of like, all right, even though it was overused, I did like the theme song that we kept, and the flashes back to the theme song of the fact that it was, this band and whatever. I did like that song a lot.
Yeah.
And I did like,
I did while we were watching it. I cracked the joke of here's our same song again. We have just the one.
Yeah.
Sorry, continue.
And so like I looked up and that song. Well, the composer for this movie, who I think did a fantastic job, and that is Satoshi Takayama, who is actually we forgot to mention this film is directed by Goro Miyazaki, and it looks like Satoshi Takayama is almost starting to be, Goro Miyazaki's Joe Izyashi, because he did up from Poppy Hill and now this film with them. So
it'll be interesting to see what they do in the future, because Up on Poppy Hill being a movie that I have not seen yet, but I've heard very good about. So I'm excited to see that now.
Yeah. So like the music, was really interesting. I liked the like 70s. I put one joke in my notes of like, oh, cool. So the Mandrake is the organ player from the Doors, because
yeah.
that just is what he felt like. Like he was this organist pianist for this 60s 70s rock band. And I love that style of music, so it was interesting to find that, and move forward with it. So yeah, like I really liked the music.
And like I said with earlier when I said in Toy Story that the people didn't look great but the toys did, same thing with this. Like items and the demons and the creatures all look really cool in this. It's just when you do people in the 3D animation, that's when I get completely thrown off. But like there's a lot of the background and everything that looks realistic and cool and just generally like pleasant to look at, which is what was helpful in watching it. That I could actually like see some of the background stuff that was nice.
Well, and then and speaking of like the minor characters being interestingly shown, was the fact that so for once, because of our release schedule, we, instead of watching it separately, we actually had to watch it together. because it was the only time either of us could watch it. And normally we don't do that. Normally we watch it at separate times so that we can keep our opinions to ourselves. But it was interesting. And it partially was because the movie wasn't fantastic, but it was so dead silent as we were watching it, because we were both like trying to not give away too much, and also not enjoying the movie that much. But the one time that both of us cracked up a little bit was as Earwig does the worms into the mandrakes, and then all these demons start coming out, and you get this one like demon that was like a little chick.
Yeah, had a little
Had like
on its head.
Had the eggshell on its head and is marching, and it's got the little chicken legs, and it's like boop 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 boop, and does the like little spin, and it's like both of us are like, that was good.
Yep. What were the worms supposed to do?
I don't
Did
know.
you pick
Like,
up on
were they supposed to be like inside her, like dog worms? You know, like the worms that get get dog sick. Like, was that supposed to be what it was supposed to be? Like,
wasn't sure on this. Like, it was just that they kept threatening to give them worms, and it's just like, yeah, like gross, I guess. Like, they're just kind of there.
yeah. Well, yeah, that was really interesting, and it's like, okay, so were they supposed to attack? And then because, we had this one scene of Thomas and Earwig doing the spell to repel all magic, which, like, if that is a spell, like, how come everyone witch-wise doesn't do that? Because clearly a person, like a witch who doesn't know anything yet and is just going off this, guide, was able to do it. So why can't everybody?
Hey, don't poke holes.
But so we get that. And I realize, like, I do kind of like the fact that the one of the main characters is named Bella Yaga, because clearly that's a nod to the, like, European folklore of Baba Yaga, or Russian folklore, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is Eastern European, I believe.
Yep. And it's like, okay, that's funny, especially for a kid's thing, like a little nod to this, infamous witch, but not be that witch. But direction wise, it was interesting. And then what were you gonna say, Shane?
I'll let you continue. I was just gonna say I don't really have a lot to add on this. Like, I feel bad for people listening to this one, because there's just I don't know if there's much to really. I don't know. It was just so jarring. I wasn't expecting much going in, and you don't get much.
I did. I'm glad I wrote this down on my notes, because it was one that, as Bella Yaga and the Mandrake are going to the orphanage, the madam, or whatever they call her, or yeah, I think it was madam of the orphanage, lines up all the kids and is telling Bella Yaga and the Mandrake about a little bit about each of them, and they clearly imply that the one kid burnt his family's house down.
Yeah, no, they for sure, they're like, and we don't know who. It's like,
and we don't. And his parents,
mysterious circumstances.
His parents died under mysterious circumstances in a fire, and he was outside. What? are you?
Playing with matches. I mean,
Yeah.
not matches.
Also, it was interesting. I thought, and I even wrote this on my notes because I didn't know. I assumed the mother would show up eventually, but I wasn't positive, and I figured that was going to be a very, very end thing. And because of how, like you said, abusive the Mandrake and Bella Yaga were at first, I was like, is the like young girl from the orphanage, like not the matron, but like the other, like her assistant, was she going to, adopt Earwig? You know, and like that was what I was thinking early on. I was like, oh, this would be a nice little story, but I probably got like Matilda or some other
Yeah, that
children's
that has
movie.
very very Matilda vibes right there.
Yeah, and like that might
I
that
mean,
might be what I was thinking. So
probably would have been a better story. Yeah, so I mean, I guess in like this is gonna be a quicker episode in summation for me. Um, I I would get kids might enjoy this. There's a lot of animated stuff out there now that does this style of animation. And it's a very simplistic story. So for like younger kids might find this enjoyable just for the visuals. Someone that might not need to pay a lot of attention to the story might like
yeah.
maybe not anyone over 8 or 9. Um,
Oh, like
but
because this is on HBO Max, I would not be surprised if, this is like a little kid's. I remember my nieces when they were younger, uh, they would rewatch and watch and watch and rewatch like The Lion King and some other stuff that I'd show them, just because they'd get it done with it and be like, "Can we watch it again?" It's like, we just finished it. Why? Which is, of course, because I'm a great uncle. I decide it's like, no, I'm going to show you Batman the Animated Series, and then you have 4 seasons of these to rewatch, so we don't get sick of them. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this gets a lot of views on HBO Max because little kids want to rewatch it again and rewatch it again.
yeah, yeah, like I said, with other things having the same style, it reminds me of like the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse and Roly Poly Oly and a few others that are just this 3D style animation that there's clarity out there. Like it's hard for me to actually compare it to what Pixar is doing because it just feels crisp than the Pixar
Yeah.
than a lot of the Pixar stuff. And it's closer to like the stuff you would see on TV shows of 3D anime.
Yeah. Well, and I think part of it, even though we had a little bit lower expectations going in, because we'd heard a few things here and there, and it's like, okay, let's see how this is gonna be. Even the trailer to both of us is like didn't look fantastic, so we're just thinking like, okay, we're gonna go in, we're gonna review this, we're gonna see how it is, but we weren't thinking much. But I think, yeah, if it was more pitched as like a children's show, even if it was shorter, I think our expectations would have been dampened a little more. So,
Mm-hmm. But
uh,
yeah, that's all I've got for thoughts.
yeah. The only other thing I've got on my notes is just like, why do you cast Richard E. Grant and then manipulate his voice like super super deep, so that you can't even really tell that it's Richard E. Grant?
Yeah, that an odd thing because and mm, yeah, I was wondering if maybe he wasn't the Mandrake and he was playing a different character that hadn't shown up yet at
Yeah.
part way through the movie, and then I realized no, he's just the Mandrake.
Yep. But I mean, like we said, we can't highly recommend this, obviously. But there's a lot of talented people, in this. Dan Stevens and voice actor or actor on Downton Abbey. Vanessa Marshall, who's a voice actress who always does an amazing job, was Bella Yaga, and yeah, I don't know if like they just tried to rush things and they didn't give them as much direction. But yeah,
I just think they started from a too simplistic of a story and tried to stretch it into something a little more.
yeah.
But yeah, next time we are watching the My Neighbor Yamada.
Next time it's another movie that neither of us have seen, but at least we're pretty sure it's better than what we just watched. And yeah, We Neighbors Amada is next, and then we get to Spirited Away right after that. So
some powerhouse ones next up.
Yeah.
Well, so we go through a stretch here though where we go Goro with this movie, and then we're going to Takahata, and then we go to Hayao again. After Spirited Away, I believe is Cat Returns.
Oh yeah, Cat Returns, which is to us it's a new director. So that will be.
I don't have the list in front of me though, so I might have been wrong on that.
No, you're correct. Yeah, it is Hiroyuki Morita, who directed The Cat Returns and then Howl's Moving Castle, and then we are back to Goro with Tales from Earthsea.
This first one, which I think that'll be an interesting one because I remember enjoying that movie, and apparently a lot of people didn't. So
yeah,
I'm excited to watch it again.
Yeah. But yeah, you can follow me on all like social media stuff at Knocked Out Films. Follow this podcast on Anchor, and it should be all good to go still on our Apple Podcast feed. That one is correct. We may have lost Stitcher and Google Play. But we are also now on Spotify, so that makes up for
it. Yeah, and then I've got I don't really have anything for you to follow me on, but I'm on Anchor and the same kind of thing. It's one is character work. We're doing the 5-star movies right now for character work. We're gonna get back to the characters later on, but search for us under character work. And then the other one is the Anime Niacs. Which I found there might be a couple of them out there called the Animaniacs. We're going to be the one that has a Gundam as our photo. So look for the Gundam.
Yep. And yeah, and I can attest because I'm a listener of all of those. I might have an announcement on a new podcast of my own coming soon. We are working out some details on that. But yeah, follow me on the stuff to find that one out. It'll probably be announced sometime after this episode drops.
Till then, be good to each other.